I was disillusioned, and I wanted to encourage whoever will be encouraged that do not let worldly men, carnal men, and worldly women, carnal women, ever discourage you from waiting on God. Because being servants of the devil, they ride on your insecurities, your self-esteem issues to try and make you quickly do something that at some point you rightly frowned upon it. You know how I spoke about the teenage pregnancy that we frowned upon as kids. When you are not married and you are having children out of wedlock, it ought to be frowned on. When you're bringing babies into this world before you are healthily ready to take care of them, it ought to be frowned upon because it's irresponsible to endure a child through all that hardship that you are in. You get my point. Like, there are certain conditions that are right to thrive a baby, and you can't just bring a baby and tell yourself the community, the village is going to raise it when you have not planned properly. It's selfish, and it'll endure that kid through harsh winters that you are going through because you have not sufficiently insulated yourself against them. So the baby is going to be met with those blows. And kids also out of wedlock, you will likely endure them through the tyranny of having siblings that aren't full, like blood brother, blood sister, same mom, same dad. There is a huge risk when you have a child out of wedlock that your daughter or your son is highly likely going to end up in the future with siblings that are not from the same father. It's not always the case. You could end up married to the baby daddy, but the chances of it are significantly reduced when you have a kid out of wedlock. So it is right to frown upon children out of wedlock for reasons that God frowns upon fornication first and foremost, and secondly, because God is all about family, and the Lord says one woman, one man, and then kids, family. Like, respect the institution of marriage and respect family enough to not endure children through bohafu, do you understand? Unless, of course, there is the unfortunate instance of being widowed. Then your kids could have a new dad or a new mom. But give kids that opportunity to have siblings that are full by waiting on the Lord and then marrying and having sex only then and then having all these kids inside. But when you have been waiting on God for all these years, you will even thoroughly covet people who did things literally the wrong way. They put the horse before the cart. They either had teenage pregnancies or they gave babies to dudes that were altogether wrong, like men that were just the absolute rubbish of the earth, like scums of the earth, like men that were either wife beaters or girlfriend beaters or exorbitant cheats, unreliable, untrustworthy. Already when they were dating, you could not trust, you could not lean on them when you were just getting married, your girlfriend. Now that gunamtana, it's gonna get worse, and you just out here be carrying, bringing a baby into a situation of that nature. And when on the come up as her girl, you looked at her on some sisters, you couldn't have waited a little. Now you look at sisters when you're 40 and you're like, at least now she's got 4 kids, even though the first one was from Jabu, the other 3 came through her marriage. You look at those blended families like they are better than at least what you got. An at least mindset. A mindset of the compromise that they walked in is better than the nothing that you have. While you are in a transitory phase, you're not dead yet, you have not breathed your last. And yet you are putting the horse before the cart in imagining that the teenage pregnancy in high school was admirable after all. It can make you wallow in that kind of ridiculous, right? And the Lord was telling me yesterday that, Karabo, you are Thomas. Because I gave you a word of knowledge, prophetic understanding, concerning one of these many miscreants all over the show watching your content. Some 32-year-old guy, okay, that has a crush on me, out here saying, I'm not gonna rescue a woman that only has a few years of mileage left to her. First and foremost, 32-year-old, you are a Ben 10. I have no interest in being with a kid, and I've said that multiple times before. And secondly, even if you were not a Ben 10, I would not want you. Because men like you are what I come to my ministry to perpetually warn women against. If you can put a sell-by date on a 40-year-old woman, you will put a sell-by date on a 22-year-old woman. The only difference is that she has a little bit more time on the shelf because she's yet to reach that sell-by date. Every last one of us have a sell-by date in your eyes. And if you can look at a woman that way, no woman, be she 18 or 48, is safe in your hands. Because that 18-year-old will not stay 18. She will turn 28, and she will turn 38. And when then she is at the door of 40, you're going to start to think that she's obsolete and say things of her like, I just wanted a phenomenal woman, honey, and you are not phenomenal. I wanted to come and basically wrap a message along those lines, and I would have. But then I I got disillusioned and discouraged and felt, I keep repeating myself, what's the point? Nothing's gonna give, nobody's gonna watch me. And so because I told myself that akunamuntu ozongibukelayo leya content yam, let me just watch a video of myself and encourage myself from stuff that I've already done in the past. The Lord of which then told me, you, Karabo, are Thomas. You don't believe. Because you are literally, even though you're not saying it in so many words, starting to imagine that ridiculous man that thinks you've only got a few years of mileage left on you is perhaps onto something. You're starting to think about all your friends who made heinous mistakes in marrying the worst men. You're starting to think that at least they got married. Honey, it's written in my word that the scepter of the wicked shall not remain on the land allotted to the righteous, lest the righteous should turn their hands aside to do evil. I told you that there is only so much attrition and pressure I will endure you under before I set you free. You are not going to be made to endure this beyond what you are able. And when I set you free, recall that every good and perfect gift is from above and from the Father of heavenly lights, and that neither eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor mind conceived the things which God has prepared for those who wait for Him. That in the season of waiting, I will mount you up with wings like eagles, and you will run and not grow weary, you will walk and not faint. And that once you receive all that which I give you, it'll be exceedingly and abundantly above anything at all that you could ever think to ask for. And that once you receive this exceeding abundant provision, you will basically hit yourself on the wrist to say, oh, you of little faith. It'll come at the opportune time, at the right moment, and you will come to learn that every last iota of rejection on the left and on the right that came in the run-up to was for your benefit and your protection, because it was bad for you. It was never going to steward you rightly. It was never going to endure evil patiently, be long-suffering, and it was also going to, given that you are not yet in an incorruptible body, you will inevitably pop your first gray, you will inevitably pop your first fine line and your first wrinkle, you will inevitably age and basically expire according to the standards of this world. When that day comes, and it'll likely come faster than it ever can for a 22-year-old, that person would have suddenly stopped finding you as fascinating as he presently today finds you, to a point of thinking that he can negotiate in his own heart and his own mind that maybe I should rescue her, she's beautiful enough to date, but look at him twitch and say that I've only got a couple of years. Look at him twitch and say that I've only got a couple of years mileage left to me. A man that is perturbed and disturbed by the fact that you are 40 today has no business being in your life anyway. But by mere virtue of, you see, this is where the lining that is silver around the cloud is at. By mere virtue of the fact that being 40 years old, this man is 32 today, and yet looking at you with deep consideration to see if he can't come and salvage you from where you're at, already invalidates his nonsensical mindset. Because if, as a 32-year-old man, he can seriously gaze upon a 40-year-old woman to see if he can't marry her, says that even if you are 40, honey, there are men half your age, near on 20, 21, 25, looking at you like Itambo lesa Kentucky. You are still so beautiful that a 32-year-old man would literally be out here scratching his mind, wondering, should I, shouldn't I, or in and out, or indecisive about hollering at you, contacting you, because the only thing that's running in his mind is your age. But just the fact that he is thinking, considering deeply, contacting you, says that you are so fly, you are so beautiful, that dumb to think that he would be your most potent option yet. Long story short, they're arrogant, la madoda. If at 32, you can deeply consider marrying some woman that you saw online, it says, little 32-year-old, that I am so beautiful and so yearnfully desirous that men your age like me, like the way that salivating fans outside of a Beyonce concert would be out here groveling at this middle-aged woman that, however, has got a whole bunch of 28-year-olds fainting over her. And when then you are that girl that has got 32-year-olds, 28-year-olds, 29-year-olds, 25-year-olds fainting over you. You have no business settling, accommodating, taking in your stride. Some apprehensive 32-year-old picking away at me like I am Brussels sprouts on the plate of a 7-year-old. What's that? I think the vegetables. Picking away at me like I'm veggies on the plate of a kid. You rather are the one that's not in my league and not the other way around. And you are Nambamjela in the list of potential sweeters that could ever take me up as a bride. Because you are arrogant and nihilistic and you put expiry date tags on women like they're animals. You regard women as on their way out and losing value as they get older. On a planet where everybody, thanks to the fall of Adam and Eve, is guaranteed, if they live to a certain age, to get older, to age, to lose their beauty, and you being among those who will inevitably lose any of your steam. For you to gaze upon a person going through a natural process like aging evidences that no daughter of God ought to take you any kind of seriously, because you are going to frustrate their lives. You're going to frustrate them. And it's written in God's word that beauty is fleeting, Proverbs 31, and charm is deceptive. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Do you understand what I'm saying? When a man does not have that coursing through his veins like blood, I kid you not, you will have a sell-by date, okay? As a woman, you're going to... We age faster than men, and our agedness is less desired in comparison to men, as opposed to men. When men are powerful, strong, financially especially, they could be 90, and women will still be out there encircling them. But an older woman is basically what they call obsolete. In a world that is that ageistic and so despondent against aging women, you need a man that has been refined by God to not gaze at you as something on a shelf with an expiration date. Just the fact that somebody could say, I'm not about to go and rescue, as if though I need rescuing. I told you I don't need rescuing. I am saved by no other but Jesus. And that Messiah is the one that raises up somebody to gaze at me with favor. That individual is then given proxy from Jesus to do a better thing by me, but understand they're not the primary rescuer. So if you are approved by God, you will know. Because you're not going to come with an attitude, a mindset of umdala lo muntu, she's a geriatric isigogwane, kodwa cute, siyababa. So I mean, she would like what cars? Marayo, she's only got a few years left on her. Yo, dog. Rejection is God's protection. Indecision is God's protection. Apprehension is God's protection. Iffiness, persnicketyness is God's protection. When you are persnickety and iffy concerning a child of God, when you pick at us, this is the perfect analogy. When you pick at God's sons and God's daughters, like they are Brussels sprouts and broccoli on the plate of a 7-year-old child that wants to just get straight to the meat, you are the thing from which we are being protected. It is your very persnicketyness and your very iffiness and your very apprehension and indecision that is our protection. We, however, unfortunately, as mere mortals, are made of dust. And so because we are made of dust, we flounder. But God has compassion on us. With us being made of dust, we will then be inclined towards insecurity, self-esteem, devastation, and all manner and kinds of self-pity. When people look at us like, you've only got 5 years left to you of steam. I don't want a woman that's out here going to be getting old on me. And I keep be 7 or be 5. She's gonna tell me, yeah, baby, but I'm already too old. When you are thinking that way, honey, all that indecision, you pacing the floor, up and down, up and down, up and down, outside of a Christian's life, we need your delay. Because that indecision is the very thing that's going to make a man that the Lord has given gumption and determination overwhelm you. It's like the case of, how can we call it? There was actually a short done on YouTube showing this analogy so very beautifully. You know the story of the tortoise and the hare? The tortoise and the hare. You know how the hare is like real fast, but then it loses the race, while the tortoise is real slow, but then it wins? The thing about the tortoise is the hare is that it sleeps in the middle. And also the thing about the hare is that it's got literally ADD. Attention deficit disorder. Can't make it up its mind. It's indecisive. The hare is persnickety, and the hair is iffy, finicky. The hair is, I've got so many options I can show. The tortoise knows what it wants, but it's with stealth. It is with steadiness that it arrives. It is with coach, train, as opposed to a flight. So it takes, or even a ship at sea, weeks to come, months even, as opposed to within just mere hours. But when it gets here, it has determined its course because it put coordinates in a GPS. It knew what it wanted. It knew where it was going. It said that I am a coach headed from KwaZulu-Natal to Gauteng. I'm not stopping anywhere in the middle. I'm not determined to take us a pit stop, a stop at Pietermaritzburg, or just greet a couple of people in Limpopo. I'm going to Joburg. And it's gonna get to Joburg, and once it gets there, it'll set up camp where it wanted to set up camp because it left already with GPS coordinates having been input into a system. It left a ship using a compass at the port of one country, harbor, determined to go somewhere. Like, a ship and a train are actually ideal to use in this instance as opposed to a car. It's very easy to take detours as a vehicle. You can decide on your way to Sandton from Roodepoort, Uguti, you are going to do a detour into Honeydew. Not even Honeydew, let me give another one, like Bel-Air or Oyako Cosmo City. Before Tobela to Douglasdale, before you go to Lynn, what you call this? Before you go to Sunnyside, before you go to wherever it is that you want to go, in Sandton, you can tell yourself that go Cosmo City on your way there. Alright? Because that's just the nature of a car, and that's just the nature of safe terrain when you're traveling on it. That is the nature of a road that has got many options on it. A road that is easy to travel and with limited repercussion or consequence to charting a different direction or taking a different turn. There are few potential hazardous outcomes out of turning left as opposed to right. You know how when you're driving these streets at night and you don't have GPS and you take a strange turn and then you find yourself in some weird green neighborhood with many speed bumps and yield signs and cul-de-sacs all over the show, and you don't know and you just keep on going around until finally you find the main road again, and then you're on your way again back to four ways or whatever. Yes, it's frustrating that you took all those detours and that you got lost inside a neighborhood, inside a suburb, but you were highly unlikely going to end up dead there or unsafe in some way or never find your way back home. You just need to drive around in all of those circles long enough to finally find your way back to the main road again. But there are certain modes of transportation where a detour is freaking dangerous. It's like life or death. It is the end of you. It is you are not going to be okay if you detour. So therefore, when you leave, you can't afford to leave without a compass. You can't afford to leave without very precise GPS assistance that's perpetually attuned to Wi-Fi that can never fail you. Because one wrong turn is petrol. Never mind petrol, but fuel. You see, when you run out of gas in a neighborhood, when you run out of gas in a neighborhood, then more. You can always just call AA to bring you gas, give them your coordinates, go guy, or knock on your door, a neighbor, or stop a car, ask where's the nearest garage. And then they will tell you 5 kilometers, do you mind giving me a lift? And then bring you back to your car. There are many options. You could also just stay there overnight, wait for the sun to rise, and then abandon your car and take a walk asking random pedestrians, where can I find a total garage? And then you go and you pour petrol and then you're right on your merry way again. God forbid there should be bandits, criminals, or anything like that, but the risk essentially to you and the risk of you ever getting to your destination is so much smaller than if, for instance, a train or a ship at sea or even an aeroplane. But in this instance, the aeroplane is represented by the hair, I guess, because it's fast, going from destination to destination in very record time. So we shall use ship at sea. We shall also use train on tracks that are determined, and there aren't like as many tracks on the railroad as there are detouring roads on a street. The street of which you can also afford to drive on gravel, should it call for it. Whereas you cannot derail from tracks and still move as a train. You have to use a particular route and you're done for. But if this train, if you don't put in the right coordinates, if it does not travel, or if spur or sad change to cause the train to go a different direction, and that train or that ship should then run out of fuel in the middle of the ocean or in one of those tracks, elevated high above mountains that are in an environment where there is no signal. It's danger, it's gevaar, it's ingozi for anybody there, because you will inevitably be parched to death. It's hard to get access to other people, to call for help. You are hard to locate, as in like there are people that have been shipwrecked, that died on remote islands because search efforts, rescue efforts did not find them. Snowy mountains. I don't know if you've seen the movie Alive, or this most recent one where there was a plane crash over some mountains, and it's based on a true story at the Andes Mountains, and a whole bunch of those students from that school passed away until they died. But then there was another rescue effort. Sorry, they had to walk. Some of the kids had to walk to a place where they could find some kind of semblance of life, and that like trekking on its own was dangerous. A couple of them died en route, but then they finally found a place where they could basically dial in, radio in, call in for assistance to let them know where it is that this plane crashed. And there are like 12 people that were left at the time that we left the camp, the crash site. Sorry, that were alive at the time. There might be less of them now, still living. It was based on a true story, right? Yeah. Ships and trains and airplanes are the only ones that get stuck in such strange places. Cars too could, like I said, get stuck in strange places. But when you get stuck at sea, you're encircled by a body of water that you can't swim through to get to safety. When you get stuck on a railway track, sometimes you are elevated above mountains. You are in rocky terrain, and there is not a single human being in sight. When you crash an airplane, you are encircled sometimes, like I said, by mountains, by snow, so far away out of anybody's GPS coordinates. We know that the world, no matter how much technology we can come up with, has not innovated enough technology to reach every corner of the earth, because if it was possible for every corner of the earth to be reached by technology, everywhere you go there would be signal, first and foremost, and secondly, there would be nowhere for the Jews, the Hebrews in the tribulation to flee to without the Antichrist system and their omnipotence created by artificial intelligence and technology would reach. But we know in Revelation 12 that the woman flees into the wilderness to be fed for 1260 days. Or is it 1230 days? And there she is nourished and fed for a times and a half a time. She's able to flee to that wilderness because the Antichrist exceptionally sophisticated AI technological systems are not able to ping that area, that location. No matter how many drones that can fly overhead, that's how vast the earth is. We haven't gotten to every last iota of it. Hence why the argument that, that we're overpopulated is just so flawed, because there are so very many places that are yet to be perused by human human traffic and can be built on by human beings, and so thrive entire societies, enough for us to come to a safe conclusion that the earth is not overpopulated. It's just that we're over-concentrated in cities, and that's why it looks as if there's too many of us here. But Papa, if we scattered a bit more evenly, and there would be way more land even than we can consume in our own individual capacities. The only issue is that we like to clump up with all that claustrophobia with each other, because God did not create man to be alone, and so we have a natural longing for affiliation, and that's why we populate cities. We love to be close to each other, but frankly, there is more than enough space for all of us. More than enough farmland for all of us. Again, yeah, so with walking, on your feet, or with a vehicle, there you're on earth, you're on terrain. And so because you're on earth and on terrain, even though you might come out on the other side with violent blisters, you can still walk to safety when your car gets stuck in some strange environment. But you cannot swim to safety, shipwrecked or marooned on an island. You also cannot get out of a train that is Godi mountains and try and find help easily. So therefore, if a person is using a steady mode of transportation that is slow but efficient, precise in terms of where it's going, like a train or like a ship, we're not going to use an airplane, because in this instance the airplane is represented by the hair. You can trust that once they arrive at their destination, they're not going to be out changing their minds and indecisive and unsure as to, should I be here, should I go back again to where I come from over another 3-week trip over the Mediterranean? No. A person getting on a ship knows where they're going, and when they get there they take what they want. So Christians are the tortoise in this instance. Christian men of God, know what they want. They have prayed to the Lord for wives. And when they chart the course to search for them, they put GPS coordinates that are godliness. She needs to be pious, love the Lord, this, that, and the other. Not unequal yoking. She must serve the Lord with fever as I am. Essentially, they go out looking for Rebecca as Abraham's servant for his son Isaac. And when they get there, they're given, like I said, GPS coordinates that are particular to let them know that it's going to be the woman carrying water out of a well, feeding donkeys and everything, feeding camels. That's the one. The Lord will give them specific GPS coordinates, and just like Adam waking up in front of Eve, after Eve gets made from his rib, the man of God, when meeting finally his bride, will say, this at last is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. He will not linger. He will not, in all of that diabolicalism, be indecisive. He will not decide to go back to Europe from the Americas if he was looking for a woman at the Americas, if we're going to use old school terminology. He is not going to go back home because he didn't find what he's looking for. He is going to chart the course knowing exactly where it is that he must go to dig out what treasure the Lord has showed him to dig out. And when he finds it, he will not be apprehensive or indecisive. So, indecision is God's protection. Confusion is God's protection. Apprehension is God's protection. Persnicketyness and iffiness is God's protection. Cowardice is God's protection. Anybody at all that is traveling here and leaving there, they are the hair, because the hair has got ADHD. It's got attention deficit disorder. It's got ADD. And so instead of determining to go from 4 ways to Rodipot or from Rodipot to 4 ways, this individual is going to take a detour in go Bel Air, detour, maybe even go all the way to go and look for a bride. And after 10 years have progressed, you will be like, oh, no. But you know what? I did want the one from 4 ways. He will eventually come to 4 ways. Not first before perusing Yonki South Africa. Men of the world have a mindset, there is more where they came from. There is more of them where they came from. They think we're like smarties. What a lot, I got it, smarties. But we all know, according to the scriptures, that the road is narrow that leads to life and only a few people find it. So God's daughters and sons are rare. They're few and far between, hard to come by. And so that's why a man in Christ says he's found a good thing when he's found a wife, because it's literally a trudging through a forest, however, to go and look for something very particular. Whereas men in the world literally think that you can cast a drag net out, since there are apparently plenty of fish in the ocean, and any one of them he could marry. They believe that. And so there'll always be someone prettier. There'll always be someone with better queen's cakes. There'll always be someone with stronger degrees. There'll always be someone with a better family that would give him better clout and so therefore promotion. There'll always be someone that will enable him to network better. There'll always be someone that will make him that much more of a power couple man than the woman that he's met. So they tend to overlook and underestimate, therefore, perfectly viable women in favor of testing the waters. The sad and disquieting thing about worldly men is that they will literally spin you on the spot, beat you around the bush, waste your time, string you along for years, thinking that they're going to find something out there in the wilderness. The two of y'all then break up because he wasted his merry time. And then, after a year of you being broken up, and say, yo, it's a jungle out there, I guess it was always you. In other words, here, look at this bugger take a tour to Soweto, a detour to Soweto. I have 4 ways. Look at this bugger take a detour, get a go KwaZulu-Natal. I go 4 ways. Literally, he skipped the province. He went over the borders of Gauteng. I go another province to go and find what he already has in Joburg. He will go to Cosmo City. He will go to Bel Air. He will stay Bel Air inside the neighborhood and just like knock on all the houses there. Realize not quite. Then I go to Cosmo City and then chill on Bayes Nodia and Jafela go Strateng go Skontiring for 2 years. And then after it's a jungle out there. Then he will finish reluctantly, trudgingly, the rest of his trip to 4 ways. I don't like that he's Douglas Dale babe. I don't like that he's Lone Hill babe. I don't like that he's Benmore darling. I don't like that he's Sunning Hill darling. He knew in his heart of hearts that it's that Sunning Hill chick. Mara mototlo zola go Cosmo City pele, aya Soweto, ablome go Bayes Nadia, go Northumberland, hang out, go the inroads of Bel Air, and then peruse Northgate, Mohubora, Shabele Bioscope, eat his popcorn, finish it, burp, eat a pizza, and then on that pizza date, on that pizza escapade of his, have a date with some other woman that maybe it's her, because Okopanleana goes stay Keniko, and then I realized that I'm a bora, and then go and squat again with the camping gear on Bayes Nadia. And only has to go khatsetse or maybe a dampilwe ke chair ya go Bel Air aba tla go wena treating you, who was always the ride or die, the main, the original, like something that he settled for. Something that he eventually took because nothing else gave anywhere. These worldly men will literally make you feel like you're a freaking placeholder. Elore, there was no one better. You were always the one. I'll check out the earth first. When I came to Christ, I sought his face to rescue me from men like these. My ex-boyfriend was one of them. Beat me around the bush, spinning on the spot in circles, and because I was always chilling on Lone Hill. GPS, detour. Why? Because he was on the road. He could afford to. Men on the world think that they can afford to keep testing everywhere. And that's why they take 20 million years to propose marriage to you. That's why as a woman at 22, you could be broody like no man's business, ready to start making those babies. And he will drag you around, beat you around the bush. 26. Okay, my phone suddenly died on me, got battery, because I was using a slow charger. But it saved my content, so we're good. I'm on 3% now, so I'm recording a risk, Mara. The sooner I get this message out, the better. I trust that the phone is gonna go on. Anyway, I was saying, these guys will literally graduate you from the age of 22 to 26, with you reducing the number of children that you ever wanted. So if you wanted a creche of 10 children, you will literally the same guy. Reduce those 10 kids to 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Until now, just one kid is enough. My ex-boyfriend took a broody girlfriend and spun her around on the spot, wasting her life encircling the same maze for years, the same labyrinth, only for us to break up. He passed me shade for a year and then try to come back. So long story short, they know they gotta go to Lone Hill, they know they gotta go to Douglasdale, they know they gotta go to Sandton somewhere, Sunning Hill, but they will always think that there is somebody else better coming, because just like it's written in God's word, like death and Sheol, the eye of man is never satisfied. Men of the world, habana full stop, habana khotsofatso. They don't have, okay, lana sengfikile, sejartin manje ngiyopaka. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of men, right? A lot of men are like that. And seeing as there's so many of us to go around Ocornucopia, frankly, sibahle, sinama body, we are eloquent, we've got degrees, we've got proper, they like one woman that has got what you call it all. There will be something that she lacks that another woman has. Because God made us with all those nuances and all that diversity. So if indota I was upaga, rejection is better. Sorry, rejection is God's protection. Rejection is God's protection. So that's why you need to wait on the Lord for a godly husband. Because God gives them GPS coordinates, like I said. And he puts them likely on a train or a ship. So there is no avenue to look left, right, take a detour. I can't go and visit Ilha de Muerta, and then we'll go to Ilha Cruze, and then if go Tortuga, like I'm using Pirates of the Caribbean little islands. And when you are going to Tortuga, and then you take a detour on the island of the Pelagostos, that's where they then are to be trying to worship you as Jack Sparrow and then kill you. No sane sailor in his mind is going to go to Ilha Cruze, Ilha de Muerta, what is this, Tortuga, and then end up go, what do you call this, the island of the Pelagostos, survive that feat, and then like Jack Sparrow make his way to port, then make his way to port where it is that Elizabeth was living, and then try to take Elizabeth as a bride, when some other man is Elizabeth's husband. Okay, my phone is charging, it's on 4% now. When some other man is Elizabeth's husband. When you are a godly woman, you wait at port, where it is that the Lord has, I guess, situated you, placed you. And this amazing directing God, this amazing leading God of yours will give a man the coordinates to your island, this man of which is not going to waste his resources, given that they are finite, on taking detours to see where else he can find a woman out here in the world. You know, back in the days when it was hard to travel, men just got married, y'all. That's why the age of marriage is now moving from 20s, early 20s, maybe just exiting your teens, to 30s and maybe even 40s. It's because men got cars and they can move from city to city. They can get on an airplane and go marry an American woman chilling in South Africa. Back in the day, you had your neighbor, that's it. Back in the day, you had the women in your church, in your community, in your society, that's it. And so men lacked confusion. Plus, they also did not want to dishonor women. They did not want to go out of their way to have women's virginities. They did like just proper priding themselves and taking a woman's virtue. Priding themselves and sleeping with all the girls and making them concubines. They didn't pride themselves in that. If at all you had a schoolboy crush, you waited to be able to afford to and that's it. You married the girl in your village. And so that's why marriages not only lasted longer, but they were more meaningful, more endearing, with lots more memories shared between the partners in question, with also very limited underestimation of the women in question. Women did not age back in the day with a great deal of sorrow, feeling like they're getting obsolete. They knew that once they were secured in a marriage, men understood that age happens to all of us. And so when you get married at like 21, when you turn 40, 41, your husband is not going to actually be looking at you as something that has got just a few more years left of mileage on her. So I guess the age of information and moving all over the show, knowledge boom, messed up the prospects of women. Because society, being as ageistic as it always has been, is more so taxing on women. It's more so taxing on women, and so more so than ought women in 2025 give their lives to Christ. We live in a debauched society, a sexual revolution, where no longer do men also value virtue, chastity, virginity. No longer do they value it. So, I mean, more so do you need direction to be tapered down in a man. Goodness, there is this wonderful gentleman. I wish I could tell you of him on YouTube that I watched the shorts of. I've become besotted with him, but you know me. I'll just subscribe to a person, and then I'll come here and tell you about him or her, and I won't be able to tell you who they are, Shem. But anyway, a young man from America, right? I think he's American. I'm actually making an assumption. He could be English or South African or Australian. I just assume he's American because most of these content creators are American. Anyway, that I click on, maybe he's not American. Maybe he's not, because he doesn't speak. He doesn't speak in his videos. He doesn't speak. He has music playing in the background and then captions, and then he acts. So he's like a mime. His his value proposition is miming, right? And he does videos with captions, like comic strips, you know? You don't hear their voices, but they speak. He does work like that. His shorts are like that. A young black man, I said from the US, but he could be from elsewhere, okay? Because I haven't heard his accent. And he's got like a man bun for hair type thing. That's the only description that I can give you, really, to know who that guy is. I wish I could find him, but my iPhone does not have Wi-Fi right now. Oh, actually it does. It has just barely caught Wi-Fi. I might actually be able to see him. He might be the first one recommended to me, because I've been, yes, found him. Thank you, donkey son. God is amazing. Okay. The name of his ministry is okay, let's say that again. It's at G Guided Productions. At G Guided Productions. Here's one of these videos. I don't want to increase the volume lest they should copyright me on music. That's the gentleman over there, right? Okay, let it play. I hope it'll play. Is my Wi-Fi still connected? I don't know. Play. No, it's not gonna play. Alright, my Wi-Fi is on. Kill. Okay. I've been watching these shorts. I'm quite addicted to them now. There is no sound there at all. Only music in the background. I bet for the first like maybe 10 seconds. I showed you one of these shorts taking the risk that I'm gonna get like copyright issues. Here's another one that's just popped up. Here's another one of these videos that has just popped up. I'm gonna make you watch it too. I just refreshed my page.
I never watched porn. I wish I still didn't struggle with it. I wish I could just rest. To just be without having to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. To just take.
Okay, now that I listened to this video, I think he's American. I don't think this is his voice though. I don't think this is his voice, but his whole entire ministry. I don't want sounds. I don't want people copywriting me for using their content. But the first few videos of this guy, this one is new. It might be his own narration, voiceover, but largely he doesn't speak like at all. So based on the accent, I can now safely conclude that he is American. Now this guy, right? I just wanted to help you understand something. Okay, I've just refreshed. I have just refreshed and yeah, okay, this one is perfect. Because Ena Abuvi, I don't think he talks at all. That's if I still have Wi-Fi. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, I have to be very careful with silence detection here. Okay, if you couldn't read that, you don't have to be able to read it on my computer. Just go to his content. I would recommend him highly. But the name of his ministry is at G Guided Productions. I would imagine the G stands for God. At G Guided Productions. All one word, no spaces. This is a young man in Christ, and I'm very edified by his shorts. I don't know how old he is, but that's irrelevant because just based on this look here, you seeing him over here, right, tells me that he is no older than 30. I don't think he's older than 30. He looks like he's in his 20s, right? So that is basically a young man that apparently allegedly should be sowing his royal. I know that he's in his 20s, even because some of his shorts, he speaks about temptation to go to parties and stuff. I would imagine there's no man in their 30s actually still going to parties and pressurizing other little men to go to parties. Like, are you still in the party scene after 30? Whatever, okay. Men in the world, that's another issue. Under 35, you will still be dealing with Muntu coming home drunk at 11, 12, 1 a.m. Sorry, Joe. Still literally buying for cover charge, paying for 5 women to go in the club. In his 30s and 40s, like, I can't, like, proper. They're dangerous to be with these guys. They are unreliable and they are heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. Do you understand? So really, rejection is God's protection. This young gentleman that is likely, highly likely in his 30s, not 30s, sorry, but 20s, okay? First and foremost, look at him, okay? Very good looking guy. He's extremely handsome, basically that which would be, or he which would be the tantamount of all the ladies are throwing themselves at him. This is the kind of guy that if he was to walk around in these streets and be your colleague in the office or in school, be your classmate, you would probably be spazzing over him, crushing hard knock, right? And yet, his focus on what he wants, that is what is dreamy. Do you understand? He has done so many shorts speaking about addiction to porn. The first one that you actually listen to right now, he was speaking about pornography and how it is that, why do I keep going back? God, please help me overcome porn. How many men in the world are actively trying to walk away from porn? Well, how many men feel grieved by watching porn? How many men in the world think that it is a problem to watch porn? How many men in the world are ashamed of it, are shrouded by it as like with a log on their heads that they must get rid of? No, they glory in it. It's written in God's word that their God is their belly and they glory in shame. Only go listen or watch. I would encourage you to go watch it because it's licentious. But back in the day when I used to watch 2.5 Men, like that's just the climate of worldly men. No matter what, even when they're in their middle age, they will fry you and they will also encourage young boys to do rubbish. So bad was 2.5 Men that the son there, the boy, the most unsavory of characters, if anything, on that show. In real life, he gave his life to Jesus Christ and quit the show because that show did not represent the things of God. The 2.5 Men, the half a man in 2.5 Men, gave his life to Christ and abandoned the show. He left the show. But literally, that 2.5 Men phenomenon is what happens with worldly men when they're in their midlife. They are still messing with prostitutes, many women. The more money they make, the more crazy they become. And pornography is easily exchanged at dinner parties, at brides. It's spoken of like it's nothing. They exchange DVDs. They send each other links of such stuff. And so therefore mess up with your sex life as a wife, where they're going to be expecting you to pull the stunts and the tricks of the porn star lady. That's how things in this world goes. Godly men, however, not only strive against porn, when they do watch it, when they slip into that sin, they are grieved by it. They are ashamed It is something that they do behind closed doors. They don't glory in it. And they are disciplined for walking in it. They are disquieted by not evangelizing their friends who are carnal and worldly. They keep on getting whipped back into shape. They are tempted in all ways by worldly women who, if you look like this and if you have this kind of resolve as a man, will throw themselves at you. Because if there's anything that women want, it is stability. And godly men are stable in ways that make them exceptionally endearing to even worldly women because of how flaccid, fluffy, and all over the show worldly men are. And so therefore untrustworthy. Worldly women would choose godly men, fast and furious, above worldly men because they are more guaranteed to, likely more guaranteed to get married. Not only that, not have to deal with infidelity. A worldly man, a godly man, will reject a worldly woman for the reasons that she is ungodly. He once did a short speaking about Delilah, speaking about a woman, like his skit was him having a conversation with God. And him being like, but God, she's beautiful. And besides, I can save her for you. This woman is a worldly woman, but I can save her for you. She's not going to tear me away from you. And the Lord is like, no, don't be with her. Don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. And then later on, the skit moves on to show him basically being Samson. His hair is cut. And he used his own hair because he's got some hair in real life, right? And he's like, he basically compared himself typologically to Samson. That he allowed the stealthy, worming in of a woman, thinking that woman is not going to do anything to him. If anything, she's going to strengthen him. He's going to strengthen her in Christ. And then he ends up being like Samson. His hair cut, strength taken. And then another one he did where he was again speaking about being with a worldly woman and saying, no, my God, she's beautiful. I'll save her for you. And then he showed himself being Solomon, in that his heart was turned away from God. He was made to be cold to the things of God and allowed himself to put up Ashereth poles in all of Israel in service to his wives. His many wives, and then get involved in a whole bunch of esoteric, crazy, satanic nonsense, just like Solomon did. This gentleman does stuff like that, right? This young man. And the reason why I love his content is because he is an encouragement to me that in the midst of all of this affliction of my person by worldly men who are attracted to my beauty, they're attracted to my physical appearance, they're attracted to my personality, whatever, they nonetheless are ungodly and so are tended or inclined towards ungodly thought, like thinking that she's pretty, but my goodness, she's 40. Top of that, there is no allotting of a grandiose amount of value to piety. There is no awarding of a grand amount of value to godliness. Like, I wanted godliness as something that is so incredibly rare and worth a while to pursue that they would quickly pounce on it. Like, that they would quickly just grab it. Like, when a man does not see that you are something that could quickly just get taken off the market and that you are highly unlikely going to be happened upon again or anything like you, when he doesn't see that kind of value in you, when he rejects you, walks right by you, glides right by your nose, understand that rejection was God's protection. Because godly men struggle with beautiful women that are very incredibly seductive, who, however, are not godly. I guess if you're seductive, you're not godly now, are you? They're not godly. And their temptation isn't that they're beautiful, though. Maybe I could reach her for Christ. But understand that if a godly man were to be given precise GPS coordinates to find a godly woman, it will not be her beauty that draws him. It will not be her beauty, that her hips, her personality, whatnot, that draws him. It's going to be the difficulty to find bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, that will make him understand that this here is few and far between, sparsely scattered, not easily happened upon. It's not just being handed out like pamphlets at a mall, flyers. It is rare, hard to come by. And when you meet it, do not waste time. Because there are plenty of godly men in these streets struggling to meet this woman. Because everywhere they go, they're tempted by gorgeous but very unseemly women. Gorgeous, beautiful, charming, but they don't love God. And the same fears that we have about worldly men. He is not going to love me appropriately. He will perpetually wear or harbor certain sentiments, blah, 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 what a fish pace. Yeah, they also have similar fears about worldly women concerning submission. They have fears about worldly women concerning like nakedness, nudity, lack of modesty, not respecting a man's authority in the house, like a waywardness about them. Just a very strong feministic edge in them that is extremely taxing to men. But worldly men cannot explain the importance of submission to a godly woman, to an ungodly woman, until they get it. Like, because they're all at odds with each other, they're always butting heads, balwantana, and they are therefore creating a lot of misogyny and a lot of misandry each. They hate each other because they have denied their roles before a holy God. They are fighting their very nature, and so they are at odds with each other.